Hi, my name's Matt Stevenson, and I'm here to talk about my team's Capstone project, adding a user interface to the BikePed Portal website. BikePed is an organization that provides a centralized database of non-motor transportation data for public agencies, researchers, educators, and the general public. The interface we have implemented will allow users to add and edit their own data, a process which used to have to be done by the BikePed development team. By shifting the ability to manage data to the users, the development team will have more time to work on new projects, and users will be able to make more effective use of the BikePed portal. To edit a particular instance of metadata, the user first selects an organization, as users can be associated with multiple organizations. The selection of the organization then fills the segment area list with segment area instances that are affiliated with the chosen organization. Users can scroll through the list or use the search functionality. Once the user finds the metadata they want, they can click it and then click Edit to edit the metadata. Or they may go to the next section, Facility. The facilities will all be related to the segment area. As you can see, a user must select from top to bottom, as the metadata categories are arranged in order of dependency. For example, you can't choose a facility until you first choose a segment area. These relationships are a bit complicated, but the interface helps guide the user to the metadata they want. Once the user has selected the desired metadata, they can hit Edit and use the modal form to edit the attributes of the selected metadata. Once complete, the user can hit Save and changes will be made. For adding new metadata, the tabbed interface follows the same order as the edit interface. This ensures users are not able to create new metadata that does not have the correct relationships established. Users can either select existing metadata from the searchable dropdown or use the Add form to create new instances. If a user selects an existing instance of metadata, the following tab is unlocked, and its dropdown is populated with metadata of that type that is related to the previously selected metadata. The Add form is also automatically updated to include the necessary attributes to associate the new metadata with the selected metadata.
As mentioned earlier, the purpose of this new interface is to remove the burden of adding and editing metadata from the BikePed developers by allowing users to manage their own metadata. This frees up time for the BikePed developers to work on implementing new features for the site, and it empowers users by giving them greater control over their metadata. The end result is users are more engaged and invested in the application, and a development team with more free time. Regarding our users, our target demographic was researchers and government agents. We assumed that they would have knowledge of the metadata they are working with, but that they would not have a strong understanding of how database relationships work. This required a design that safeguards users from inadvertently corrupting their own data. Our approach attempts to provide a secure workflow that conforms to how we anticipate the users want to work.
As seen in our demo, our interface provides the following features: Add, where users are able to create new instances of the metadata; the Edit, where users are able to update their metadata; and the Search, where users are able to search their metadata. Though the features seem straightforward, there was actually a lot of effort required to enable these features to work as intended. Moving to the first feature. Well, when adding new metadata, users are creating a new relationship between metadata as well. Most users would not understand the possible dangers when working with relational data, and so we needed to preempt those pitfalls for them. Our interface for adding new metadata helps guide the users through a chain of dependencies with autofilling data and locked fields. This helped prevent users' error when adding new metadata. Our interface for editing metadata is simpler, as it does not require the same kind of safeguards as the Add interface. Though there are still some, it does still provide conditional rendering of data, and the accordion design keeps the page uncluttered. The goal of this feature is to guide users to specific metadata quickly by navigating through a chain of dependency.
In both interfaces, users are able to search each subsection for specific metadata. This is an especially helpful feature when working in a section with a large collection of data. We also have search implemented in some forms as well when large collections can be selected for a field. Fortunately, we were able to implement almost everything the sponsor requested, with one exception. One feature that we would have liked to tackle would be providing users with an interface for entering geographic polygons to mark boundaries on maps. While this feature was not vital to the project, it would be a nice addition to what we implemented.
Here we have a simple diagram of how our interface fits into the site architecture. The BikePed app is a web app built using the Django framework and connects to a SQL database. Our interface, which has components in both the front and back ends, is updated dynamically based on user input. This input is processed in the back end before being saved into the SQL database. Likewise, existing metadata is retrieved from the database via a Django view and rendered in HTML templates.
The first half of the project was spent on planning and preparation. The major deliverable of the first phase was a project document outlining exactly what we intended to deliver, which we were able to break up into parts and complete as a team. We also used the first half to figure out our methods for project management and for research and learning. In the second half of the project, we began development of the interface. We spent our first sprint on settling on our designs. Next, we spent 2 sprints on building out the main sections of the front end and the back end. From this point on, we met regularly with our sponsor until the end of the project to ensure the working prototype was conforming to expectations. By the final sprint of the project, we were down to just bug fixes and style improvements. Our team of 7 was split into 2 teams, front end and back end. We settled on 2-week sprints with weekly stand-ups every Monday. We used GitHub's project tracker to manage our work and assign tasks. The front-end team listed here designed the interface and implemented most of the front-end code. The back-end team, also listed, designed all back-end components and were responsible for some of the more complex interface functionality. Members from both teams contributed equally to the development of various documents throughout the project as well.
I'd also like to note the accomplishments of London Joseph and Nicole Kurtz in particular. Multiple teammates have reached out to me and expressed that they wanted to acknowledge these 2 particular teammates for the outsized contribution that they made to this project. And while everybody contributed meaningfully to the project, London and Nicole definitely stepped up and went above and beyond time and again. So as a team, I'm sure we all would like to say thank you and extend our appreciation for the hard work that you put into this project.
At the beginning of the project, our sponsor mentioned that in a previous attempt at this project, the developers were never able to implement the edit functionality needed. However, our sponsor was not able to explain why this was the case. As a result, going into the project, we were on the lookout for any issues that might prevent us from accomplishing what the previous developers were not. Eventually, we found what we believed to be the cause for the first attempt failing, a misuse of the Django framework. This complicated the work required for both the front end and back end teams, as we were not able to make use of most of Django's built-in database functionality. To overcome this, we were able to implement our own queries to the database and utilized a decent amount of jQuery to provide the level of functionality that we needed. Though it added to our workload, the challenge was a great opportunity for our developers to push themselves and learn a lot in the process. Other than that, the project went surprisingly smoothly. A few new requirements were made clear later in the development process, but we were able to implement almost all the requested changes.
We asked our sponsor Tammy Lee for feedback on how the project went, and her response was overwhelmingly positive. In particular, she noted that our communication was excellent, our achievements were impressive, and that she is excited that this project in particular was completed. She also noted that she really had no constructive feedback, as the project had gone so well. We, as a team, are of course delighted that our sponsor was as satisfied with the project as we are.
Through the development process of this project, there's a lot of things we've learned, and here are some of the things that we learned. The first thing we learned was to start early. Although we finished our project on time, we could have probably spent the first half of the project getting more work done. The second thing we learned was to ask lots of questions. This was already understood, but the value of asking clarifying questions became clear when working with our sponsor on the project's complicated requirements. And lastly, we've learned to set clear schedules. For much of the project's deadlines were fairly loose, and having clear deadlines could have helped us avoid some confusion when developing this application.
In addition to our lessons learned, we have some advice to any future Capstone teams. For one, if possible, you should begin coding in the first quarter. Although we finished on time, it would have been nice to have more breathing room. Further, if we had encountered more problems or anything unexpected, our schedule might have been thrown off. It feels like you have all the time in the world during the first half of Capstone, but don't be fooled. The end date will come up sooner than you expect. Second, it's good to set clear expectations for both the team lead, and the sponsor. Everyone should know what they're responsible for and who to talk to when they need help. Making roles and tasks clearly defined will help the project stay on track and help avoid any imbalances in responsibilities. Lastly, standardize communication. Right away, you should figure out how you are going to communicate with your team and your sponsor. Having set regular meetings with your sponsor can help keep them in the loop and make sure that your hard work is what the sponsor wants. Likewise, regular meetings with your team helps ensure everyone stays engaged and aware of how the project is going. It can be easy to let everyone work in silos, but keeping everyone talking over established lines of communication will help your team succeed. With that, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I would like to thank our sponsor Tammy Lee for being a great collaborator to work with. BikePed is a great organization, and we as a team are thrilled to have been able to help improve what BikePed has built.